Welcome to the Champions Hour, and thanks for joining me. I'm co-host Ph.D. Galley, your sales and business development coach, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Dr. Bill Lampton. Welcome, Dr. Bill.
Thank you, Edie. It's terrific that we have another opportunity to share ideas with people that will help them both professionally and personally.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be doing this Champions Hour with you. And although we call it the Champions Hour, it's less than 20 minutes. However, we do put more than an hour's worth of tips and valuable information to make a difference in it. But we know your time's valuable and 20 minutes is about what you have to listen. So we put all that value in the 20 minutes. So thanks for joining us again. And today we're going to be talking about focus, your focus in your business and how you're presenting yourself online. So, Dr. Bill, would you like to get us started and talk a little bit about your experience with focusing with different things online?
I think back, Edie, to 1996 when my twin brother, I lived in a different city, and he called me and he said, "Do you have email?" I said, "Email? What is email?" He explained to me, electronic mail, and I was just sort of overwhelmed. How can mail be electronic? I've never seen anything that would suggest that when I go to the post office. And all of a sudden, someone said, "I've got somebody's website I want you to see." Website? What's a website? And so I went through the pages and pages of this person's website. I said, why would a person do that? That was 1996. Just think of how our world has changed, how we connect with other people, how we connect with people around the world, how we connect with strangers, how we build our business. It's fascinating, isn't it, Edie?
It's absolutely fascinating. And I think you brought up a very important point when you said, I was overwhelmed. And even today, although email, we have a generation that grew up with email. And so it's really common. We email more than we postal mail these days. So email really isn't overwhelming. However, marketing your business and what you need to do to get your business started and how you present yourself can often be overwhelming because all of the options that are available online.
Yes, and I think one of the things that you and I have agreed on in some of our private conversations off the air is that one mistake many of us make in our marketing online is to try to find out the 20 or 25 places that we can describe what we do, post information, have conversations started with people, get followers, get connections, whatever. We think, oh, there's so many of these and I've got to be in all of them. But you can't do that. You shouldn't try that, should you, Edie?
No. And I think that's, you bring up another important point because, and I work with people that start their new businesses all the time. And one of the things that they try to do, they're like, oh, there's Twitter and there's Snapchat and there's Instagram and there's Facebook. And I've got to have a presence on all these and Google Plus. And when you try to do that, it's very overwhelming. And not only that, you spread yourself so thin that your presence doesn't have as much impact as if you were to choose, like you and I have talked about Seth Godin, one of the top marketers of today, who's written many best-selling books, and he doesn't even have a presence on Twitter because that's not where he's most effective. And I think it's very important to decide which ones you will focus on and which ones you will develop your presence on, which ones work for you, and then really have a strong presence there instead of having a presence on 5 or 10 different ones and none of them being strong or really giving you the impact that you want to get.
And I think the point here is that we need to determine which ones out of all the social media, which of these fit our business, fit us personally, and fit our message. Now, in my thinking, in my case, I rely very heavily on both LinkedIn and Facebook. I look at it this way, Edie. LinkedIn is where I can very consistently show my professional side. I looked yesterday and I've written 80 articles on LinkedIn. Some people don't even know that you have the opportunity to write articles there. I've written 80 articles. I try to have a very strong presence. I spend probably 2 hours a day on LinkedIn. But the other avenue I take is, okay, people get to know me professionally that way, but if I wanted to work with this guy, what's he really like personally? So that's where Facebook comes in. And there I'm free to post pictures of a golf outing or a vacation trip or Christmas with the family or that beloved little dog, Georgia, that I post so often. And so people can say, okay, he's not just a former academic who works with companies. He's also somebody I might like to go have coffee with or a lunch and just get to know personally. So that's my take on it. So which ones do you find fit your purpose and your niche and your personality?
I like what you just said about also what fits your niche, because I'll tell you what, if I was working mainly with the media, I would absolutely be on Twitter, but I'm not. So I don't have much of a focus on Twitter. I really concentrate somewhat like you do. I do most of mine on Facebook. And since I work with people mainly in growing their sales and growing their sales in their business, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs and new business owners, and I connect with a lot of those on Facebook. I do also work with companies that have sales forces, and I connect with them on LinkedIn. I think that having both presence, like you said, it gives you the opportunity to show your very business side and professional side, and it also gives you side to add a little bit of your personal into it as well. And when you want people to get to know you, to like you, to trust you, to do business with you, all those things are very important. What I'd like to mention, though, is you can also, just because you're on different social media, like let's just take two, since you and I both use LinkedIn and Facebook. If you look at those two, just because LinkedIn is more professional and Facebook, you have the opportunity to display some of your personal side, it doesn't mean you need completely different content for both. You can reuse a lot of your content. Like maybe your golf picture goes very well with a professional article that you wrote on LinkedIn, and the professional article can still be shared on Facebook, maybe, and with just a little different twist on it. So it's very helpful to reuse a lot of, but keeping in mind, not just putting it all on all of them the same, because they're different audiences.
I agree. And I see advantages, for example, to Hootsuite, where Hootsuite, which you can have as a supportive tool very inexpensively. Hootsuite, you can post to 5 or so social media at the same time. Yet that may not be always wise, because the way you put something on LinkedIn may be very different from the way that you would present it on Facebook. LinkedIn might not like the photos that you would put on Facebook. You also can be more informal on Facebook. And there's another point here, Edie, where we're talking about technology. When you look at the people who teach the social media, I don't find very many of them who teach all types of social media. I think of Kim Garst teaching Facebook, and I think of Greg Burkhalter teaching LinkedIn. I'm not sure if there are very many of them who say, I can teach you 10 of the social media avenues. They specialize just as we should specialize.
Right, because are so many different aspects. And when you're looking at what you're going to do, if you were to look at doing all of the different social media, and then you have to learn all the different ones from the people that specialize in those, the time that you would invest would not bring back the same type of results as if you were to look at specifically, like, for instance, take Facebook and decide that whatever, I'm selling soaps, and so I'm going to sell soaps on Facebook, and I'm going to connect with people that way, and I'm going to be able to show them. Then you would want to invest your time in really learning all the different ways that you could use Facebook and the value that you could get out of it. But you wouldn't necessarily want to spend as much time on LinkedIn.
when you mention the different ways that you can use Facebook, I think those who are guests on our program today might want to know, Edie, what's your opinion about ads on Facebook? Have you found them beneficial? Do you recommend them to your clients, or do you say to them that's not a good investment? What's your take on that?
I personally think ads on Facebook are a very good investment. I think that it is very important, again, to be focused, which is our topic today, about focus. If you put on an ad on Facebook and it's not focused and it's just all about you, it's probably not going to get you far. If you put an ad on Facebook that's really focused on an issue that viewers are going to have when they're looking through their timeline, then you get a lot of results. And there's also different ways where you can look at, do I want people to just come like my page? Do I want people to purchase something? What do I really want people to do? But I believe the value is there, and now you can also put ads on Instagram, and depending on what your product is, what your service is, how you want to present yourself, I think it's very worth the time to learn what the ads can do for you, because it's some of the least expensive advertising and the easiest way to connect with the most people possible. I do know that there's people that will say, I can't stand the ads. I don't like to see the ads in my feed, but they do like to use a free social media, and it's kind of a trade-off.
I think when I think of Facebook ads, I think of two particular approaches we can take there. One is, and we see this quite often, we will post something on Facebook, and then Facebook puts below it, for $20, you can have 3,500 people view this. And that's a very small investment, $20. And then the other would be the advertisement that is out to the side of the main feed, which I haven't done those. Is that something you do, or you have your clients do?
I have done that, but one of the differences in that is, I will tell you, most people use mobile devices to view Facebook. And when you view Facebook that way, you do not see those ads out to the side. So those ads out to the side are only going to show up when you're using the desktop version. And again, you got to look at your audience. Is your audience the type of audience that will be sitting at their desk at work and be looking at Facebook if they can, or sitting at home at night and looking at it on their computer or laptop, or are they the type that will be using a mobile device? Because it shows up completely different. So I think it's important. And this is a very good point when you're honing your focus. Think about these things. So often when we get in our own boxes, when we're starting our business or in business, and we think, this sounds great to me. I know I can do this. Let me just put it out there, and not thinking about the way that the recipient, the viewer, actually sees it. So take a look at Facebook on your mobile device, take a look at Facebook on your laptop, and see the difference. Because if the large portion of your audience is going to be mobile device users, then ads out to the side really aren't going to get to them.
Getting back to LinkedIn, which we're talking about jointly here as well, LinkedIn looks quite different on a mobile device than it does on a desktop computer. And we need to be aware of that as well. Something else I believe, should consider, Edie, is that I know some people get frustrated when the social media that they are accustomed to dealing with, when LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or Google Plus or one of the others that I might have could have mentioned, when they change their format or they change the way that they operate, and some people just want to freak out about that. However, most of those we need to recognize are for the purpose of efficiency, and also to, once we get accustomed to it, make our marketing simpler and more productive.
Right. A lot of those changes are geared towards making marketing more effective. So if you're using Facebook ads and Facebook makes a change, typically it's to make it more effective for you to get in touch with more people who are using Facebook. And the other thing is also, as we have moved in the last few years to more and more mobile devices and not being the sole way that we see these things, being able to show as much information as possible on such a small device is very important. And in order to do that, they had to make a lot of changes. I think that's true even in websites. So many people do not have mobilely responsive websites today. And it's so difficult to view one of those on a mobile device when it's very easy to make the transition from a static website to a responsive website. And that's a very important thing to do.
And then in regard to that, talking about websites, the old style website, you can spot it quite easily because it doesn't fill the entire screen. And so it's very good, even if you're not a techie, get your tech expert to find a theme for you that expands to fill the full screen, because otherwise you can look pretty outdated, even though the content is good.
Right. Absolutely. Or not having, now you're saying that on the desktop, it doesn't fill the whole screen if it's not the right theme, or when it goes to mobile?
I'm thinking desktop there mostly, I suppose.
All right. I see. You see, I think this is really good because I use mobile most and you use desktop most. So we have kind of different experiences. And I think that's very important to people that talk to people that have both experiences. And the same thing happens on a mobile device. If you have a website that just is only appropriate it's not responsive, so it doesn't know I'm looking at it on a mobile device. What happens is it gets really small and it gets really hard to see, and you can't see the whole screen, and you've got to move around on it to try and find things and expand things, and you miss a lot. And again, it's just difficult to use. So you may have people that is just, a lot of those I look at, if I'm not really, really intent on getting the information, I'll click on another one that is responsive, that makes it really easy for me to view it on my mobile device.
One thing that astounds me is how the mobile devices, the sound of a video can not only equal what you would have on your desktop, but it's even clearer. It's more forceful, and that amazes me that little device can produce such good video sound.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, in my business, it is rare that I actually use a laptop. I use it to make videos like we're doing. I'll use it to do face-to-face with clients. But outside of that, and I use my mobile device. And even a lot of times when I do face-to-face with clients, it's still on my mobile device. I prefer to do this because the laptop is steady and it's right there in front of me, so it's a little easier. But really isn't anything we cannot do with the mobile device that we can do on a desktop today.
And we get back to those early days when we would check into a hotel, have our laptop with us, and plug into Earthlink, so we could have a connection. It was cumbersome. It was sometimes the hotel would charge you for that, or Earthlink would charge you for that. And just to imagine the portability we have now, the accessibility we have, it's remarkable.
It absolutely is. You're right. And I think there's probably a lot of people who have never even heard of Earthlink. And yet, like you said, that was all we had at one point in time. And there's so many things that we have available today that are just happen in the snap of our fingers. We're doing everything, whether it's listening to videos or watching videos or a movie. We can watch a movie on whatever we want to do. And I think that brings us right back to our topic, which is the reason to focus is because there is so much available and so many different ways to do it, that if you really try to do it all, it's like you and I've talked about this. When you meet somebody and you say, well, who's your best customer? And they say, oh, I can work with anybody. I can service everybody. And the issue is you may be able to service everybody. Everybody may have a need for what you offer, but you can't service everybody really well. And when you focus on the ones that you can service the best, it's the same with online. When you focus on the tools online, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or what it is, when you focus on those tools that are going to get to the customer that you service best the most, that's where you want to invest your time. And it's really worth the time to figure out, what do I want to focus on, rather than just trying to do it all, because you'll run yourself tired trying to do it all, trying to be a little bit on every social media site or every opportunity available.
It's something I was thinking about. You prompted it, and that is, if I've got a suit that needs to be cleaned, I'm not going to go to the shoe repair shop.
Absolutely. Right. Although the shoe repair shop may know how to get it cleaned or where to take it, you're not going to go there. You're right. You go specifically to who can do it best for you.
Yes, we select our vendors of all types by what is it they do best. And that's important for us to bring that out. So getting back to which social media we use, which ones will serve us best, which ones will represent us most clearly, and more important, most persuasively.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is a lot of times when we do business, when we think about the way that we do business, and like you said, we go to who focuses in exactly what we need. And that's the person that we have the most trust in. But then when we start our businesses, we're so eager for more business and so eager to help that a lot of times we don't focus and we say, oh, I can do it all. I can do it all. And that's not, remember, it works the same on both sides, and you do yourself a better service if you really focus on what you do best. And I enjoy doing these shows with you, Bill, and they go by so fast. I think we really could probably talk for 2 hours, let alone an hour or 20 minutes. And it's about time to wrap up. So is there anything else that you wanted to share before we take a little minute to wrap up and say thank you to our viewers?
Well, we could talk for 2 hours, but nobody would still be with us. Edie, the point I would make would be something that I became aware of just in the last few days that some other people did, and that's the closing of Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus after more than 140 years. And the current owner said, the world has changed more in the last 10 years than it did in the previous 50 to 70 years. And so for a child to be entertained now, they're not especially interested in going see an elephant stand up on its back legs. No. If they were there, they probably would have some mobile devices with them. We are very fortunate that you and I and many professional people are very fortunate that we are aware of the change, we're open to it, we welcome it, and we want to learn about these marvelous devices and apps and software that can help us present our business and tell people how we can help them.
Absolutely. And it helps us service our customers so much better. I work with people that I've never even met in person, but we know each other very well and we connect all the time in ways just like you and I are on video, face to face, and yet we are never in the same room. So I think the opportunities are out there, but it is very important to focus on what services your business and your customer the best. And as I mentioned earlier, I focus mainly on Facebook. I love to connect and get to know people there. So if you would like to get in touch with me, feel free to find me on Facebook. It's just like it sounds. It's Edie Galley, Edie-Galley, and reach out and connect with me. I'd love to learn more about you as well.
And I'm on LinkedIn, Bill Lampton, Lampton. Also a presence on Facebook, both a personal page and a business page.
And thanks so much for joining us here on the Champions Hour again. It has been our pleasure to share tips and techniques and resources that will help you become more of a champion in your life.